Welcome back to Resistance Chicks. We are your hosts, Leah and Michelle. We are coming to you, it is Tuesday, November 21st, 2017. I'm hoping that our title was a little bit of a clickbait for you. But seriously, yesterday, Leah and I may have wanted to do an episode and just titling, I just said to Leah, I said, you know what? We need to do a naked episode. And she was running down the stairs and she yelled back, I don't think you meant that the way that it sounds. What I meant was all these people running around naked. Ain't nobody wanna see that. Ain't nobody wanna see that, okay? Seeing somebody naked is an unfortunate byproduct of having children. Most people don't want to see anybody streaking, running around naked, exposing themselves, especially wrinkly old men. Ain't nobody want to see that. Okay.
Zero Hedge has an article, actually,
nobody want to see
that goes into it in a little bit of a humorous way. That's a little bit more vulgar than I can go, because but this one is funny to me. Last night I was on Twitter, and if you want to get breaking news, just get on Twitter. I know Twitter is a crazy place to be.
I don't tweet, man.
But if I don't know a name, like, I literally did not know the name of John Conyers. I did not know it, like, off the top of my head. I know who he is now. But when I see something trending in Twitter and I don't know the name, then I click on it, right? And yesterday, Mike Cernovich kept saying, actually it was the day before, he goes, tomorrow a big story's going to break. It's going to be a leading House Democrat. And I kept waiting, and I saw him tweet yesterday, it'll be tonight, and I just kept waiting and listening. And I was like, I got to go to bed, right? So I'm waiting for this story to break.
And Mom's yelling from the living room, what is so important? Well, she doesn't sound like that, but what is so important that you are still awake?
Well, I was actually melting down lard last night. And not even kidding you.
I love our life.
Let's
so
chew
great.
the fat on this one. So that's why we didn't go live. I'm melting lard down. Make room in the freezer.
Story.
But anyways, I was cleaning up the kitchen, and I checked Twitter one more time, because that's just what I did. And I was like, who's John Conyers? And I clicked on it. I was like, there's the story. It's the story. And I had to read it. So the gist of the story about John Conyers, we're going to get to a bunch of... There's so many different stories here that it's just a little bit... we're going to go to Al Franken, another groping episode. I want to give you a picture of... Well... The title picture was John Conyers. I'm not sure. Where's his picture? Little black guy. Anyways, that's another guy. We're going to get to this guy. This New York Times.
You had to call him a black guy.
Come on.
You know what? I'm not going to classify people as color. If they're a perv, they're just a perv.
Okay, so this is John Conyers. If you didn't know, he is actually, I did not know this, the longest sitting member in the House. He was praised by Martin Luther King Jr. himself. Maxine Waters says that he fights for women's rights, and Mike Cernovich actually got the story, but he knew that if he broke it, it would look partisan and nobody would take him seriously.
So he gives it to BuzzFeed, and then I love how BuzzFeed kind of trashes.
Yeah,
Cernovich
in the article,
Yeah, like, who gave you? Don't mind the hand and feet, man.
In the BuzzFeed article, it says basically reluctantly, we got this information, we vetted it. Mike Cernovich is a fake news purveyor of fake news who pushed Pizzagate, but this story is correct.
Right.
So the story behind John Conyers came out hours after the 60 Minutes Charlie Rose story came out. So my first thought was, Charlie Rose of 60 Minutes fame, he had his own show on PBS. We all know him as this voice of reason. He interviewed Steve Bannon. He interviews Donald Trump. He's interviewed Hillary Clinton. And he always talks in such a way, like some fatherly way. Like he has
Mr.
all the
Rogers.
answers. Exactly.
This is like hearing that Mr. Rogers had some sort of sexual indiscretion.
Yes. And the accusations behind him are true because he admits to them.
Right.
He says, I'm sorry. His full statement was, I'm sorry. I thought that we were pursuing mutual whatevers. And I guess...
You mean I thought the feeling was mutual?
Basically. Well, no. Not the feeling was mutual. I thought he thought he was pursuing mutual affection.
Thank you.
So he's accused of sitting next to women and putting his hand on their thigh and then going other places with it. He's accused of inviting them over to his house. And then the whole Weinstein thing. Taking a shower and running through the room naked. Now, you know what? I can't. You have to see Tucker Carlson, his face when he talks about this. I wish I had queued this up, but it just dawned on me that this was really important. This is 10, 12. No, we want 11. We want 11, 20.
Here's the thing. I just don't understand. I mean, they're like little kids that just get out of the bath and they have to run around naked. It's like they never grew up. They just want to feel the wind. In the Netherlands,
they want to feel the wind. That's one way to put it. Let's see if we can get
these people, these streakers. And Horatio pointed out that in the UK they have a lot of streakers at games and things like that. And I said, here's the difference between y'all streakers and American streakers. Americans will laugh at streakers that go in a game, but they're not going to associate with them. They're not. I don't want to have anything to do with you. You're kind of weird. The UK people, they say, come on, mate, let me buy you a pint after you get out of the slammer for streaking. Okay, they want to hang out. They'll laugh it up. But in America, it's kind of weird if you're a streaker. In the UK, if you're a streaker, then you're treated as a hero.
Her husband would never have become president if that dastardly Fox News has existed back in 1992. Watch.
Unfortunately, our body politics immune system has been impaired because there has been a concerted effort starting with the creation of the Fox network. It wasn't there when Bill first ran. It was one of the reasons he probably survived.
A set of drapes
partisan
that she's wearing.
Positions.
What is that?
Irrespective of the truth, the facts,
like
the evidence.
It's a germ in the body politics, like Ebola. Mark Stein is another person who might have derailed the Clintons back in '92. Lucky for them, he was still writing about the arts at the time. He joins us now. I mean, what do you? I hate to agree with Mika Brzezinski, but maybe she was onto something when she said that Mrs. Clinton, Secretary Clinton, should, stop talking.
I think so. This was
That's
the
a good clip, by the way.
Anniversary gala of the great Clinton victory of 1992, and there were the two of them there with James Carville, and you got to bet that there were a lot of big shot Democrats who were invited to that who are no-shows. I mean, to go back to what Tammy was talking about. The Democrats are like this on everything. They didn't care. They weren't worried about the Russians during the Cold War. 25 years after it ends, they're worried about the Russians. They weren't worried about Bill Clinton's behavior when he was in the White House. 25 years later, the senators are now saying, oh, yes, he should have resigned over Monica Lewinsky. The New York Times ran a...
You know why that is, you guys? Because they have to... Stephen Molyneux put this at a really great light. He said that Democrats have used setting up Republicans, right, in sexual misconduct things, and now they need it to bring down Roy Moore. So they're willing to sacrifice Clinton to try to take down Roy Moore, and we're going to show you some interesting developments in the Roy Moore case.
So when you were doing, okay, no, finish that one.
A couple of days ago, called "I Believe Juanita." Well, I wrote my "I Believe Juanita" piece I'm going to remember the exact date, February 25th, 1999, in the National Post of Canada. So I was right 18 and a half years ago when it mattered. And as Tammy said, they all knew that what Bill Clinton was doing, and it didn't matter. They trashed those women. There were all kinds of women. He liked all kinds of women. He liked young women, old women, svelte women, full-figured women, all kinds of women. And no matter what, he liked upper middle-class women. He liked women from trailer parks. He liked women generally. And no matter what kind of woman he trashed, the Democrats piled on in destroying all those women.
Yeah, I noticed it. So what do you make of Hillary Clinton saying out loud, if
and he
Bill
said it
Clinton
all with a
had
straight
been covered
face
by a real news organization, Fox News, he never would have been president? That's not really an attack on Fox News. It seems more like a compliment to me.
Yeah, because
Yes.
a couple of minutes after that, they admitted.
I don't even know that
in
I would
a
give
sense,
Fox News
they
that much
faked
credit.
his victory in New Hampshire. He lost the New
Oh, I
Hampshire
remember.
primary.
To Paul Songus.
To Paul Songus, who no one remembers
can't.
now.
This whole thing is
But
too funny.
He stood on stage and declared himself the comeback kid. And at that time, ABC, CBS, NBC, and CNN, which is all there was, went along with the comeback kid narrative. Just as when all the sex stuff came up, they went along with the old news, nothing to see here, time to move on narrative.
Right.
And had Fox News been around, I've no doubt, I can imagine Sean Hannity doing one of his opening monologues, pointing out that in fact Paul Songus was the winner in New Hampshire, and it was nothing to do with Bill Clinton and his comeback kid. I mean, that it would have been a very different environment for them.
But should she admit that the only reason he won is because the press was tame and obedient and refused to cover the actual news? I mean, that's what she's saying.
That's what they want, Tucker. I mean, don't forget, I mean, what is it that Bill Clinton, why are we in a mess now? Why shouldn't, I mean, look at it this way, why shouldn't Al Franken grope a woman? It's because the media told us it doesn't matter being a pig. Character doesn't matter. The fact that Clinton was a successful president meant anything he did in his private life was irrelevant. And the Democrats told us back then in the 90s.
The Democrats are actually their armor is coming off because with Al Franken, they are coming to his defense, which is hilarious to me to watch. Some people keep saying, well, he didn't actually touch her. And then another picture of him coming out. Not only did he grab Joy Behar, another one of Ariana Huffington
of the Huffington Post.
Of him grabbing her. And she comes to his defense saying, well, it was part of a gag. It was part of a joke.
But the Huffington Post is known to cover up sexual misconduct.
Everybody does it. And now, as the opening of your show has pointed out, everybody does do it. They do it in Hollywood, they do it in Minnesota, they do it in the halls of Congress. They've got respected PBS anchors walking around naked in front of female, and I don't mean Big Bird, other ones, walking around naked in front of female staffers.
Because Big Bird ain't got no clothes on, but he got feathers.
Everybody did
God gave
do it
him
until
clothes.
Bill Clinton
Whatever kind of bird he
re-established
is.
droit du seigneur on an industrial scale.
Mark Stein, like nobody else. Thank you.
That's what I wanted to get to on that
is
clip
so
there. We have respected PBS anchors.
Running around naked.
Running around naked. Naked.
I really wanted to title this, Ain't Nobody Wanna See That. That's what I wanted to title this program. Because really, ain't nobody wanna see that. Okay? And this goes back to one of our Virgin Diaries. The Hugh Hefner one, the Playboy one, where I say that the human body looks much better with clothes on. Always. Okay, let's just establish that fact. Let me get to a couple of the comments here. John Conyers' wife went to prison for shaking down Sinego, taking bribes for $2 billion sludge contract.
Yes, she is in prison right now, and that actually corresponds with his needs. It is said that he actually had women flown in. He would have staffers fly in women on his congressional budget to meet his needs. And one woman, the main complainant, and this is where we want to get to, that's really kind of serious. It's very, very serious. The and House Democrats are calling foul.
But I don't want you to get to that punchline before I finish these comments, because I know where you're going.
I'm just going to explain why it's bad.
Okay.
I'm going to say there's a system for reporting.
Right, that's what I knew you were going there. No, go ahead, finish.
There's a system for reporting. And it's really, really insane. You have to have 30 days of counseling first.
If you have been sexually harassed or something like that, and you want to report somebody in the House or the Senate, let me establish that.
You go through counseling for 30 days.
Correct.
The other person doesn't even know you've made the complaint.
Right.
And then
you have to sign a non-disclosure agreement
that you won't disparage or disparage or talk bad about the person that you are coming against.
And you have to pay for your own legal fees while
the House pays for. It's a slush fund. That's the slush fund.
It ain't the House, man.
The millions of dollars gone
it's your
to
money. It's the American people's money paying to defend these creepos. All right, Chris Holman says, wait, touching a woman's thigh and inviting her to your house is sexual harassment. It is bad form and can be disrespectful, sure, but is it always sexual harassment?
Yes. Here's the thing. We are going to go through, you know what? I'm going to get to my punchline right now. This is what we call getting back to baseball. Okay? I'm glad that you're watching because all men need to get back to baseball in relationships.
Thank you.
You just watched a movie last night that if the character played by Robert Downey Jr. had followed the baseball rule
in the movie, I think it's called The Judge.
He never would have kissed his either daughter or niece. We never figure out.
In the movie.
Now, tell him a little bit about this movie.
Okay, so in the movie we have, what's his name?
Robert Downey Jr. and Robert Duvall.
Robert Duvall. And Robert Duvall is his dad, he's a judge, yada, yada, yada. Well, he comes back into town, old girlfriend, you know where this is going, and then there's a teenager, not teenager, she's a bartender, so she's obviously at least over 21. He makes out with her, okay, while he's still married. I love Hollywood, it's so great. While he's still married, then finds out that the girlfriend is the mother of said person that he just made out with, and then he's doing the math in his head and thinks, okay, she's my daughter, but then finds out at the end of the movie that she's more likely his niece, and I guess somehow that makes it okay.
So, this is what I want people to look
Meets her in a bar, makes out with her 5 minutes later. Now here's your baseball thing.
This will all be taken care of with baseball. When we were growing up, we always heard first base, second base, third base. Okay. We need to start a home plate.
Yeah.
Okay?
Batter
First
up.
of all, name. Name first.
Yep. Eye on the ball, eye on the pitcher.
Maybe parents' names first.
Good idea.
Where are you from? Are we related?
Real good idea.
Are we related?
Or could we be related? Do you have a last name?
What is your last name?
Are you married?
Are you married? Am I married?
Am I married?
Okay. No. If any of those things, if we're related or if either person are married, you don't get to play baseball.
Yeah.
Walk away.
You don't get a walk. You don't get pitches. You don't get 3
foul
strikes.
balls.
No foul balls. You ain't going to first. You ain't going nowhere.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So we need to have an assumption of identity before you even play the game.
Yes.
Before you even have a pitch thrown your way.
Ooh, and in today's day and age, we probably need to add, are you a trainee? I can say that word, it's my show.
Yeah.
Are you homosexual? Have you had a sex change? Are
what
you bisexual?
is your biological gender?
Mm-hmm.
Wait, I need to know YY, XY.
Yeah.
X, whatever.
You
if
ever
you're
had a sex change?
XX, YY,
Right.
XY, Z, ABCD, LBQ.
Right.
All right. So what is your genetic makeup?
Right.
Yes, this is okay. So this is usually assumed before we play the ball.
Right, here we go.
Now,
Play ball.
when you play the ball, there is assumption of interest when one asks out a female.
And
The female responds in the affirmative.
or the negative, in which case,
So-
then you really can't go anywhere from there.
So there's no touching
No touching.
of the person
Right.
unless you're invited to the game. If they don't want to play on a game with you, you don't touch them.
No touchy.
Okay? So no, you don't touch somebody on the thigh before you have bought them dinner. Before they have agreed.
I have some more questions, though.
Go ahead.
If you're in some sort of like figure of authority, are you my intern? You ain't played a game.
You ain't played the game.
Yeah, we got to start there.
Don't play the game.
Right.
Don't play the
Am
game.
I a congressman? Am I married? I can't play the game. Am I president? Can't play the game. Bill.
We're not playing the game, Bill.
We don't get to play the game.
So, usually you have to start at home plate before you go to the base of the first base. All right? And usually,
Yep.
and we're going to get kind of graphic,
No, careful, we got children here.
you slowly lean in. And if that person turns away, it's over. You
No
don't
more
get
game.
to go to first base.
You out.
Okay? So, this is how we need to progress in a logical manner.
Right?
It used to be that even in the 80s when I grew up, young boys knew the baseball game.
They did.
Have you been to first base?
Right?
Have you been to second base?
Let's stop at second base and get married.
Let's stop at second base and get married.
Yeah.
All right, so running across the room naked. is a foul ball.
Oh, so
foul ball. And you know what? That is actually stealing the ball from the other team, running around, because these journalists invited to the home of Charlie Rose, they weren't playing baseball. They weren't playing the game.
No, they didn't.
So running naked, not a thing. Charlie Rose would be sitting next to a woman, and he would put his hand on their thigh to see their reaction.
She was interested.
That's skipping bases. That's stealing bases without even hitting the ball.
Okay.
All right. So let's get back to some more news.
Okay, hang on. Let me go to a comment while you figure out where you're going. Okay, thank you for that, Chris. Alan Campbell says, huge difference between Roy Moore dating young girls above the age of consent and Bill Clinton's antics. Roy didn't abuse paralegals working for him. President Clinton took advantage of an intern. Thank you.
If President Clinton was single and he had asked Monica Lewinsky out,
we wouldn't be here.
There's no problem.
No problemo. I don't care what kind of thing they want to do with the thing in themselves. Whatever. Even if he's president, fine, whatever.
All right. So this is Charlie Rose's co-anchors for In the Morning, and they have decided to fire him, and he is no longer welcome.
Bye-bye, Charlie.
Demands a frank and honest assessment about where we stand
we go.
and more generally the safety of women.
CBS fired Rose after the Washington Post published a report detailing allegations of sexual harassment. The report was based on interviews with 8 women who described unwanted sexual advances. Is there any
Women cannot achieve equality.
Oh, by the way, sexual advances, okay? You only get to go to sexual advances if the female has decided to play the game with you, okay? You don't get to advance to the bases unless the female has decided to play the game.
Right.
In the workplace or in society until there is a reckoning and a taking of responsibility. I'm really proud to work at CBS News. There are so many incredible people here, especially on this show. All of you here. This will be investigated. This has to end. This behavior is wrong.
I've enjoyed a friendship and a partnership with Charlie for the past 5 years. I've held him in such high regard.
He didn't want to hold you, obviously.
And I'm really struggling because what do you say when someone that you deeply care about has done something that is so horrible? How do you wrap your brain around that?
Because everyone you're around does it.
I'm really grappling with that. That said, Charlie does not get a pass here. He doesn't get a pass because I can't stop thinking about the anguish of these women. What happened to their dignity, what happened to their bodies, what happened maybe to even their careers. I can't stop thinking about that and the pain that they're going through.
In a statement, Rose said, I deeply apologize for my inappropriate behavior and said he doesn't believe all the allegations are, quote, accurate. He was fired also from PBS. So, a lot of this stems from a fantasy world that my personal opinion was created by Hugh Hefner. And actually, if you follow Q...
Oh, yeah, this is a good one. Was Hugh Hefner
the
CIA?
White Rabbit? Was he the White Rabbit?
Was he inviting these people, these big wigs from all stages of life into the Playboy Mansion, giving them a private room, having them with the younger women, videotaping it, and then all of a sudden, he has the dirt on them forever.
Yeah. So, yeah.
You didn't think I knew that news, did you?
Yeah.
Ha-ha.
So lots of you guys have been asking us to follow Q. That's one thing I tweeted out. I don't know if that's true or not. It would make a lot of sense.
We are going to get to 4chan at some point. We just are still gathering what we feel is important to gather before we present to you an official Resistance Chicks position.
So I want to play for you while we're talking about Charlie Rose, and we're going to move on to John Conyers. Here he is in such a hypocritical discussion about Harvey Weinstein.
Weinstein's story continues to bring forth more accusations against the film executive. An investigation by the New York Times published last week revealed allegations that Weinstein had been paying off sexual harassment accusers for decades.
So many journalists did, in fairness to them, try to do this story. but it always got killed. It got killed by their higher-ups, by their editor, by the owner, by the entertainment editor, whoever was a friend of the owner of the paper, whatever. They would always kill the stories, and he could always get it killed. It's going to come out. It's only a matter of time. And, I used to think this was going to happen. I always used to think, Harvey could be the next Bill Cosby because there was so much there that people could get at and hadn't done so.
But you never said anything, lady.
It's something so humiliating, though, about believing that you're going for a business meeting and finding that actually it was a ruse. I mean, all of this demonization begins. Powerful people can make a woman, can trash a woman's reputation. Look what women become afraid and they think, I'll never work again. And it happens again and again.
But there's all the attention to this. First of all, what happens to him now?
Creepy.
This has been absolutely unbelievable, epic fall.
Coming on top of what happened to Roger Ailes and Bill O'Reilly.
And you. And you.
What does it change?
Okay, don't ever go to HR. HR reports to the boss.
And he runs his own show.
Chronicle it, document it, and have a case, a proper
and tell
case.
Somebody.
And then you can go and tell a lawyer. It is no longer acceptable to do these things. And if you cross that line, you will be called out. Makes people worried that if they behave like that, it will come out, and it will.
And it will.
It will.
Isn't that great?
That's so great. It's like digging your own daggum grave, isn't it?
It is. It is. It is. All right. So, while I think this Charlie Rose situation is absolutely epically hilarious, seeing the idea of he is old, man. He is so old.
It doesn't matter
and
if you are
was
old
in a relationship.
Or young or
What's funny about this is he's in a relationship.
I can be touched. I ain't done by me.
He's in a relationship with a woman who's connected with the Standard Oil, the Rockefellers. Isn't that weird?
They're all tied together.
Isn't
they're
that
all
crazy?
a bunch of globalists.
But he is so old, and just imagining to me this wrinkly old man running across the room naked.
No, don't imagine it. Do not imagine it. She actually pointed out one of our neighbors, and she's like, "How about blank running over there?" I was like, "Nah, I don't want that bitch. I don't want my head." I need to clarify something for those of you that haven't seen it. When I said I can be touched, I don't mean like this. Leah and I have a thing. She does not like to be touched, and yet she touches me, and I'm okay with it. All right, let's make that clear.
So, when I didn't think that Charlie Rose could get any better, any more hilarious, then John Conyers came out, and then another person came out.
Not to be confused with the Terminator, John Connors.
I know.
Pretty convoluted one. Michigan Representative John Conyers, as you say, a Democrat and the longest-serving member of the House of Representatives, settled a wrongful dismissal complaint in 2015 with a former employee who alleged she was fired because she would not, quote, succumb to his sexual advances. Conyers denying the story of the former employee, as well as reports that he repeatedly made sexual advances to female staff that included requests for sexual acts and touching them inappropriately in public.
See, that's so weird.
When you ask a woman to blanket, you have already got to home plate. And you haven't even asked her if she wants to play the game. That's what's wrong with Harvey Weinstein and Charlie Rose and John Conyers. They need to learn the rules of baseball.
Play ball.
Also alleged is that public dollars were used to transport women that Conyers had relationships with. The story, first detailed by BuzzFeed, is now being widely reported. The news comes on the heels of the revelation that a secretive congressional outfit called the Office of Compliance has settled 264 harassment cases on behalf of the legislative arm of our government, totaling $17,240,854 over a span of 20 years. Now, those settlements were paid with taxpayer dollars, so the information has not been made public about who benefited from those settlements or when. It's not known for sure whether the Conyers 2015 settlement of $27,000 actually came from the Office of Compliance or whether he paid from his own pocket. However, for his part, Conyers had this to say, quote, "My office resolved the allegations with express denial of liability in order to save all involved from the rigors of protracted litigation. The resolution was not for millions of dollars, but rather for an amount that equated to a reasonable severance payment." And last week, Representative Jackie Spires exposed the office to the public for the first time and in a hearing said the two sitting congressional members had benefited from the office's largesse, which paid out settlements in sexual harassment cases. She said one legislator was a Democrat, the other a Republican. We can't confirm at this time whether Conyers is the Democrat she was referring to, but it certainly raises that question.
Unbelievable. Jerry.
Unbelievable. Not really. They've called for a Senate Ethics Committee investigation into Al Franken. They've called into a House Ethics Committee investigation, and that is the Fox investigating the hen house.
Yes, it is.
Go ahead. You look like you have some
no,
comments.
I did. Because this is, listen, we have most of our viewers are male. I would say 75% of you, in fact. But... And I get a lot of comments from, listen, I get what these guys are doing is completely wrong. But the other side of it is every guy doesn't want to fear sexual harassment. And that's why, just because they make the first move or something like that. And Chris had left a comment on here. See if I can find it. I don't remember exactly what it said and I can't find it. But the point is, you can make a move if you're both playing the game. All right, that's what we need to get back to Leah's baseball analogy. We got to start at home plate, people. Okay, none of these interns were playing the game. Now, Chris did add later, nobody should make any kind of advancement if you're in a position of authority, like a boss to, an employee or something like that.
But if you're
so you're absolutely right.
Yeah, in any sort of situation, you don't actually go into a physical... sexual type of touching before you know that somebody has some sort of interest in you.
I think the rest of it goes without saying. If you're already there in the situation and then
you got to figure it out.
You got to figure it out, man.
You got to figure it out. Now we have it figured out. You put a ring on it.
That's right.
All right.
Courtship.
And that's the way it used to be. Unfortunately, without courtship, without somebody, saying, I'm seeing you with the intent of marriage.
This is what is called, it's kind of dusty.
We've never burned it, so.
We haven't burnt it, yeah, no. This is a courtship candle, okay? So our friend Ashley bought this for us because she knows that we believe in courting.
I guess we've burned it for a second.
No, it's definitely not been burnt. It's just discolored. But anyway, a dad, it would show how much he liked a suitor by how much candle he would give. And so you'd sit down and you get to sit and talk for as long as the candle will burn down, and then boom, you cut off, right? You ain't getting to second or third base with any amount of candle that will stand up without falling over. Okay, I'm just saying, it is not going to happen. So, yeah, everybody needs one of these. If you have children, buy one.
Okay. All right, so there's a second woman who has accused John Conyers of repeatedly and daily sexual harassment. A former staffer said she was harassed daily by Representative John Conyers in a lawsuit that she withdrew. Now, when we're talking about Roy Moore, there hasn't been any lawsuits.
Correct.
There has no proof.
Right.
And
we are down to one accuser.
And I have some new information on her too. So we need to be able to take every situation, unfortunately, and realize there are some people who falsely accuse people, and then most people don't falsely accuse because it puts your life and reputation on the line. Okay? Mm-hmm. And so if you go as far as a lawsuit, that gives you a bit more credibility, but she withdrew after a court denied her request to keep the complaint sealed, according to a report Tuesday, as the second report in as many days, which contains allegation of sexual harassment against the lawmaker. The ex-scheduler claimed Conyers touched her repeatedly and daily from May to July in 2016, causing her to suffer insomnia, anxiety, depression, and chest pains. Her public documents obtained by BuzzFeed News that were filed in the U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia in February. The touching included rubbing on her shoulders, kissing her forehead, covering and attempting to hold her hand, as well as some instances in which the top Democrat urged her to come to his home, the woman alleged. She said the stress she was experiencing was exacerbated by Conyers' wife, Monica Conyers, calling her a whore.
Oh, wow, that's nice.
Accusing her of wanting to have an affair with her husband. The woman was terminated later in 2016 after she refused to share medical documentation with her superiors to justify a period of sick leave. She had been seeking $39,000 in lost wages and damages, $15,000 for mental anguish, emotional distress, and punitive damage, but she abandoned her complaint after her application for it to be sealed was denied. So we don't know technically about this, but it does line up with the other women.
Right.
Pelosi calls for ethics investigation into alleged Conyers we have a hard time pronouncing his name, into this craziness. And she says, as members of Congress, we each have a responsibility to uphold the integrity of the House of Representatives and to ensure a climate of dignity and respect with zero tolerance for harassment, discrimination, bullying, or abuse. Well, if you really believe that, then why in the world did you leave Bill Clinton in office? This really all comes down to Bill Clinton. Yeah. Bill Clinton has allowed...
He set a precedent.
Exactly.
And that's why all of these men are still in the positions that they are. And now that it's unfolding, then a lot of people are having to walk back their stances.
Now, this is a woman. She is a Democrat, but I want you to listen to what she has to say.
You know, the Congress of the United States should be an example for the rest of the country, for corporate America, for the education establishment, for the military. And frankly, we're just the reverse. We're the worst example.
She has long pursued for reforms in the way sexual harassment claims are handled in Congress. She believes the current system shields abusers and encourages victims not to report.
Before you could even file a complaint, requires the victim to go through 30 days of counseling. And then after the 30 days of counseling, they have up to 15 days to file a complaint. And then they are required to be subject to mediation for another 30 days. And then, and only then, after those 2 periods of time and a cooling off period of time, they can file a complaint. I mean, I've always felt that the reason why we don't address it in Congress is we don't want to make it seem like it goes on when we know it goes on. And oftentimes, it's only a very courageous victim who goes out of the system and files a complaint in court months later that we even hear about.
And the guy could be perpetrating on so many other victims in the meantime.
If someone has been sexually harassed, if they're working in a hostile work environment, they should be able to file a complaint, period. And then that should be independently investigated.
Not by other House members either.
Whether it's other staff or the member should pay a
House
price.
Ethics
right
Committee
now,
needs a
the cost of any settlement comes out of the U.S. Treasury.
Committee.
It does not
yeah,
even come
because I'm wondering
out
who are these
of
counselors
the members'
and just exactly how
allowance.
are they counseling?
There's no penalty. It's an embarrassment, and we've got to fix it. It is designed to protect Congress to the detriment of the victim, the staff member who has done nothing wrong. So I am of the mind that this whole process has got to be subject to a wholesale.
So she's actually absolutely right.
Yes, spot on. I love that. So Redneck points out that I have steam coming out of my left arm. This is a diffuser. I have a cold. We're diffusing essential oils here. Okay.
So while we're talking about Representative John Conyers, this is footage where a clearly unabashed and elderly congressman has been filmed reading Playboy magazine on a flight to Washington.
No, you did not tell me about that.
Yeah, so
that's embarrassing.
Hang disgusting.
Hang on. But how do they know it's Playboy?
They can. It is. They know what it is. You can.
Who looks at that stuff in public? But an addict.
An addict. He's addicted.
It's like the person that has to carry the flask.
Right.
You know what I mean? On their personage all the time. They can't go a second without it. That's just weird.
You're on a plane with all kinds of people. You're right next up to people.
Next to somebody who don't know you.
And you're having a sexual experience with a magazine with strangers right next to you.
You did not tell me that.
I'm just reading the articles. Just reading the articles.
No.
Somebody thought it was gross enough to record it.
Yeah, of course. I would have. I totally would have. You know what, though? Hang on, though. I would have said something. I would have been like, dude, you got to do that right here.
Right.
Right here, you got to do that. I'm sorry. I can't.
Right. Okay, so the big thing about this BuzzFeed article, let's see. The documents from the complaint obtained by BuzzFeed News include 4 signed affidavits, 3 of which are notarized, from former staff members who alleged that Conyers, the ranking Democrat on the powerful House Judiciary Committee, repeatedly made sexual advances to female staff that including requests for sexual favors, contacting and transporting other women with whom they believed Conyers was having affairs, caressing their hands sexually, and rubbing their legs and backs in public. 4 people involved with the case verified the documents as authentic. One affidavit from a former female employee states that she was tasked with flying in women for the congressman. One of my duties while working for Representative Conyers was to keep a list of women that I assumed he was having affairs with and call them at his request, and if necessary, have them flown in using congressional resources.
Addict. He's an addict.
Former employees also said that Conyers made it very clear that if they performed personal favors, it would lead to salary increases and promotions. It was well known that Conyers was having affairs with multiple female staffers. He often made sexual advances towards women and grew angry if they brought their husbands around.
So. And if I am one of those women, I'm bringing my husband around. Well, if I had one, I'd bring Kansas. He's like my brother.
Yeah. So this is the BuzzFeed article here.
Wow.
This is why you didn't hear her story, because basically when she went to report it, she ended up in a black hole.
Right.
Where you either have to settle or you have to go into court.
And who has the money to do that?
She says
they have all of the taxpayers' money to defend themselves, and you have what, your little salary?
She says the closely held process left her feeling guilty. She had no option other than to stay quiet and accept a settlement offered to her. She was basically blackballed. There was nowhere she could go. And, you know, she was really just stuck because once you sign an agreement saying that you can't talk about it, what are you going to do? What can you say? You know, and here's the document here. This is the little document. It says, the complainant agrees that she will not disseminate or publish or cause anyone else to disseminate or publish in any manner disparaging or defamatory remarks or comments adverse to the interests of Representative John Conyers, and goes on and on and on. This is just a ridiculous system.
I think it's important because this just occurred to me. All right, here's the difference, guys. More than likely, sexual harassment is not going to occur when you're hanging out with your friends. All right? If you're hanging out with your friends and you're the type of people that joke about those kinds of things, that's not where you're going to have to worry about being accused of sexual harassment. Sexual harassment happens at a workplace, or let's say you're on a co-ed baseball team, softball team, whatever. Some sort of thing like a community, something like that, at church. You name it. Those are the types of things that we're talking about, as you know, and that's the difference. Because I think of it a lot, and I love this. A lot of people now are shaking in their boots, having to replay every time they ever joked sexually with a woman that they worked with. Dang, that could be treated as sexual harassment. Guess what? Yes, it can. Because here at Resistance Chicks, I'm gonna get serious now because we were joking. We take the stance that men are in a figure of authority in whatever environment that you are. You are literally physically, at the very least, physically more capable than the woman. And so in that, you can't just jokingly joke sexually with people that you work with, because that woman, you don't know. She may just be laughing it off, and inside she doesn't like it, but she doesn't want to offend you or whatever. So there is a precedence to set. Guys, guess what? When you're at work or you're playing softball or whatever you're doing with people that are not your family and close friends, keep your sexual jokes to yourself. All right? That's it.
So this is a New York Times White House correspondent, Glenn Thrush. I did not know who he is, but I guess if you're on the Hill, you know who he is. He's really famous. He has a history of bad judgment around young women journalists. This is from Vox. And he has been suspended pending an investigation. Latest accusations against the political journalist. So in the Post, which linked to an article about the latest accusations against political journalist Mark Halpern, if you heard about him, he used to be on Morning Joe. Thrush wrote, young people who come into a newsroom deserve to be taught our trade, given our support and enlisted in our calling, not betrayed by little men who believe they are bigger than our mission. It was a noble statement, but some Washington journalists this person spoke to says it rings hollow, given Thrush's own behavior with young women in the industry. So I guess when you're in New York and you're trying to get your stories in, you have these powerful men and they say, come to my house or come out with me or come for drinks. And then you feel like you're just hanging out with them. And then they take it a step further, and it's just not fair.
Right.
It's completely disgusting. He says he kept saying he's an advocate for women and women journalists. A 23-year-old woman told me, recounting an incident with Rush from this past June. That's how he presented himself to me. He tried to make himself seem like an ally and a mentor. He was 50 years old with a 23-year-old and using his power to, it says this night ended on a street corner with Rush left her in tears after she resisted his advances. So, and then here is a bunch of texts. And it goes on to kind of say, you know, it's just, I guess it shows that it was terrible. It was a terrible night, and I feel like a jerk. I'll make it up to her. I really feel strongly about not creating a toxic environment. She's lucky to have us as a friend.
Have you as a friend.
You as a friend. So I guess he admits to some power dynamics and some craziness going on, and I guess there's other incidences where, you know, he touches them, puts his hand on people's thighs, and then starts kissing people.
No, you just don't do that. Back to baseball, people.
Unwanted groping and kissing out of nowhere, hazy sexual encounters. It's just a list that goes on and on and on and on.
No.
And on. So there you have it. I think we're going to move on to Roy Moore, who I believe is actually innocent in all of this, which is frustrating for me. Because I am such an advocate for victims, and this is a nonpartisan issue. Even though it does seem that Democrats are coming out more now than ever. Everybody is a Democrat. Kevin Spacey, Harvey Weinstein, Charlie Rose, all of the big names coming out. And the only Republican that they're throwing at people's faces, Roy Moore. Seems to be the only innocent one in the bunch. Before we go on, I want to play this. This is Representative Mike Quigley, who does say that if the allegations are true, they should both go.
Crosses party lines. We've seen the accusations facing Senator Franken over in the Senate, and now we have these allegations against Democratic Congressman John Conyers. Do you believe he should resign?
Here's how I look at it. If these allegations are true, they should both go. They get their due process, but it's deeply disturbing that my colleague, Mr. Conyers, used his own resources within his office to make this some sort of settlement instead of going through the official process. This concerns me greatly. I think the congressman needs to look at himself, and frankly, if I was in his place, I would leave.
Okay, I just want to make sure that we have this right. You are saying if these allegations are proven to be true in both of these cases, for Congressman Conyers, for Senator Franken, that they should both go. And
Absolutely.
What is your sense of the accusations thus far? I mean, Senator Franken, you have a photograph of him apparently groping a woman. And in the case of John Conyers, you have a payment made in that investigation. How much more evidence do you need?
Right. Well, they get their due process. It's as disturbing as that is, particularly in a system that hasn't created the same due process for the victims. I think what's most disturbing, again, about Mr. Conyers' allegations is the fact that he must have structured internally in his own office some sort of settlement. To me, this is a greater sense of culpability on behalf of his office and himself.
So how did that guy get elected? I don't know.
That's a very good question. Here's the thing. Somebody had pointed out, it was Beth. If anyone here is concerned there aren't as many Republicans guilty, don't worry. It's on both sides. It's bipartisan misbehavior. You are absolutely correct.
Yeah.
But it has to do with corrupt politicians.
And right now we're talking about corrupt Hollywood. And it's well known that 99% of Hollywood are
Democrats.
Vehement Democrats.
Right.
So everyone coming out in Hollywood is a Democrat. Now, here is another person in Hollywood, person you never would have heard of. He is the head of animation at Disney, takes a leave of absence for grabbing and kissing missteps. Now, we go back to baseball.
come on, guys.
You don't have
just follow along.
You can't have a kissing misstep. Now, I'm just going to tell you this: if you have invited somebody out to dinner and they have expressed mutual, let's see where this is going. You can kind of have a misstep there.
Yeah, you go in and she like,
that's a misstep. Oops. Okay, a misstep doesn't happen if you haven't asked somebody out, if you don't have some sort of basis of mutual interest. Okay, and with that kind of face, no offense, you can't go around just kissing people. And that what you have is Harvey Weinstein guys, Charlie Rose, and this guy thinking that young, attractive females want to be kissed and touched by you. This is not a thing. This is not a thing.
Ain't nobody wants to see that.
Hollywood sexual predator class is falling like dominoes. The latest casualty in the sexual harassment blowback appears to be a Disney animation head, John Lasseter, who, according to the Hollywood Reporter, is taking a leave of absence from Pixar after acknowledging painful conversations and missteps. He disclosed in a memo to staff Tuesday. Lasseter is best known as one of the founders of Pixar, which began as part of Lucasfilms. You've got The Bug's Life and Toy Story and Monsters, Inc., which is interesting that you have these huge perverts making movies for kids, which just makes me so mad. But of course, Disney's full of perverts. Recently, he's behind Frozen and those other movie. According to THR, and based on the accounts of former Pixar insiders as well as sources in the animation community, Lasseter, who's well known for hugging employees and others in the entertainment community, was also well known by insiders for grabbing, kissing, making comments about physical attributes. Multiple sources say Lasseter is known to drink heavily at company social events, such as premiere parties. Sources say some women at Pixar knew to turn their heads quickly when encountering him to avoid his kisses. Some used a move they called the Lasseter to prevent their boss from putting his hands on their legs. So what we see here is a pattern.
Right.
With Charlie Rose, he goes to put his hand on their legs. With everybody, it's like this weird groping and touching and weirdness, so that when you're in a meeting, you're taking advantage of sitting next to somebody.
That's creepy. It's wrong. It's beyond creepy. What's the other word besides creepy? I mean,
criminal.
Yeah.
So a longtime insider says he saw a woman seated next to Lasseter in a meeting that occurred more than 15 years ago. And he goes on to explain how she feels bad because she wore a skirt that day. And it was unfortunate because it's a thing that he always does. His statement says, he's always wanted animation studios to be places where creators can explore their visions, blah, blah, blah. I've recently had a number of difficult conversations that have been very painful for me. It's never easy to face your missteps, and it's the only way to learn from them. As a result, I've been giving a lot of thought to the leader I am today compared to the mentor, advocate, and champion I want to be.
Yeah.
It's been brought to my attention that I have made some of you feel disrespected and uncomfortable. That was never my intent.
It's been brought to my attention, meaning it wasn't at your attention before, brother.
Collectively, you mean the world to me, and I deeply apologize if I have let you down. I especially want to apologize to anyone who's ever been on the receiving end of an unwanted hug or any other gesture they felt cross the line in any way, shape, or form. This whole apology isn't an apology. It is, I'm sorry if you feel that me touching you or kissing you I'm sorry I have offended you. So if I say, hey, Michelle, I'm not really into pink today, and then you're like hurt feelings.
Really don't like my pink?
It's like, I'm sorry if I hurt your feelings, though. I didn't mean to hurt your feelings. That's not,
no.
This isn't how this works.
Right, but really what you're trying to say that he's saying is, I'm sorry if you thought that what I said was offensive. I'm offended you ain't like my pink. It's offensive that you said that.
So Zero Hedge has a hilarious take on let's see if it comes up in one of the first one. On this new stock apology. By the way, everybody is kind of using this this stock apology, if I can find it.
So Mark H says Al Franken wrote in his book that his apology for his really raunchy jokes was fake.
Al Franken, he did, and that is really true. That he said it was fake.
John Gee, if someone makes an advance toward you unwanted, then you should tell them that makes you feel uncomfortable. Tell your husband or your boyfriend or the police, not the Washington Post 20 years later.
Well, that is obviously...
Here's the thing. I think that we have to look at every case, because I feel the same way, that they should have spoken out way earlier, especially like Roy Moore's accusers. Why didn't they speak out earlier? But I think sometimes in these situations where Roy Moore wasn't in a position of authority, these people were already in positions of authority at that time.
These people could make or break your career.
Right.
So you don't speak out.
I'm not defending it because I totally would have spoken out. A career is not worth that to me. I am a human being with integrity. That being said, it is at least understandable why some of these people didn't speak out. They should have. You're right.
Meet the celebrity perv apology generator. While I do not recall the events of the 2009 Golden Globes party transpiring the same way, I am deeply ashamed, but not sorry, because that means I'm guilty of something. It was a very long time ago, and of course, now I realize my behavior was wrong. In conclusion, I will not change anything about my actions or behavior.
And that was their apology.
Some of the other favorites include, as someone who grew up in a different era, the allegations against me are troubling. I imagined that any woman would have been thrilled to see my blankety blank peeking out from below my blankety blank.
Hang on, though, these are jokes.
These are jokes, yes.
Right, okay, thank you.
And of course, I now realize my behavior was wrong. In conclusion, I will delete my Twitter account because I hate to see people who are mad at me. As a father of daughters, the allegations against me are troubling. I comforted myself by saying that at least I asked before I honked her and demanded that she watch me shower. And of course, now I realize my behavior was wrong. In conclusion, I will not change anything about my actions or my behavior. As a male feminist, the allegations against me are troubling. I will devote my life to finding the real Golden Globes party molester. And of course, now I realize my behavior was wrong. In conclusion, I will get the help I so desperately need because this isn't actually my fault. I have a problem, so I'm not responsible for my actions.
Right.
As someone who grew up in a different era, I'm deeply ashamed but not sorry because that means I'm guilty of something. It was a long time ago, and of course I now realize my behavior is wrong. In conclusion, I have chosen to live my life as a gay man so that if you say anything bad about me, you are now homophobic.
That's a really good answer, and I think that's in reference to Kevin Spacey.
Right. So here is the apology generator, actually, and you can just keep hitting one over and over again. This is hilarious.
That's really great.
Try again. Try again.
All right, so are we going to do the CNN interview with the basketball player's father?
We can.
Okay, absolutely. Christina had asked about that.
That is absolutely hilarious. We will end on that because...
But it's painful.
It's painfully hilarious, and I'm going to
hard.
make you watch the entire thing.
No.
All right, so we did Glenn Thrush. We did all the recent pervs. So let's go to one
Roy
who is not necessarily a perv. Okay, so this is the former White House deputy cause... Katie Walsh, she says Roy Moore's vote needed for tax reform. Alabama voters should decide his fate. Now listen to her for a second.
This administration, is there a right position here for them?
Look, I think it's a really tough position, and the allegations against Judge Moore are deeply troubling, and I believe that he should step aside if there's any truth to them at all. But the reality is, Kellyanne is right that we need the votes to pass tax reform. And so where the president is on this, I believe, and Sarah Sanders has been vocal on this, which is up to the people of Alabama. And I think, they'll make their decision in a couple weeks here.
So just leave him in there. Don't try to do some maneuver where Luther Strange resigns his seat and they have to have a different special election. There's all these type of things that you could do. And the governor could delay the special election date. If you were in the administration, would you encourage something like that as opposed to wait it out and let's see?
Well, I do want to reiterate that I think, the allegations are troubling, and my personal position on this is I think Roy Moore should step aside if there's any truth to them. Having said that, just like Brian, you mentioned you met me when I was at the Republican National Committee, and we took the position during the primary that the voters should decide. The RNC didn't get involved in the presidential primary for any reason, whether it be policy, whether it be accusations that came about, that ultimately the voters of the great state of Alabama should decide.
So that's the same thing that happened with Trump. People needed to make their own decision. So every single detail of Gloria Allred's attack on Roy Moore has been debunked. Now, we are down to two accusers.
Because none of the other ones were actually accusers. If you were over the age of consent for actually sleeping with somebody and all he did was take you out on a date or ask you out, you're not an accuser.
Right.
Okay? There's no legal action that you can take for being over the age of consent for him to actually sleep with you, and all he did was take you out.
Right.
All right, so you're not an accuser. We knock out 6 that way.
Exactly. So we're down to 2. So here's 1, okay? And this woman here who is totally unbelievable. We talked about this the other night. Let me just break some of these things down. I know.
That's great.
I know. Let's see. From the report, Gloria Aldridge was lying. The Old Hickory House required employees to be at least 16. Beverly Nelson's claimed she was 15 when she started.
This was where she worked.
The restaurants
happened,
where the yearbook is signed. The only piece of evidence is the yearbook signed. Even if he signed it, that wouldn't prove anything.
Exactly.
But if he debunks the yearbook signing, then that debunks everything.
Right.
Okay. So the restaurant's dumpsters were on the side of the building and not in the back, as Nelson claims. So she's obviously misremembering a key detail. A former employee says the restaurant never closed at 11 p.m., as Nelson claimed, and at midnight. So it's another key where she is misremembering.
Because she said that it happened she got off work at 11.
Right. So there's 3 keys that she's obviously misremembered. If she's misremembered 3, customers at the counter were served by the bartender or the cook, and not by any waitress. So he ate at the counter.
Right.
So he wouldn't have been served by a waitress.
Right.
And the witness claims they have shared this information with several news outlets, but they have refused to report the truth. Moreover, Rhonda Ledbetter, who worked at the restaurant, she is named, she's come out, okay?
Well done, Rhonda.
Has hesitated to come forward, but she said, as a moral and ethical person, she had to come forward. Rhonda has said she never remembered anyone coming into the restaurant in a suit, and that Roy Moore never came into the restaurant. And she worked there.
Right.
Okay? So, this Nelson story busted here, and Roy Moore tweeted this out. The Moore campaign unveiled statements from key witnesses that completely bust the story of Beverly Nelson and Gloria Aldridge and further reveal an unconscionable bias on the part of the state and the national press to hide the truth from Alabama voters. They have painted him as a pedophile and a serial pedophile without looking into the accusations whatsoever.
So what does that tell you, Leah? That possibly it was completely invented?
Yes.
From the beginning?
Absolutely.
That this woman didn't come forward and she's just a liar on her own, but maybe they dug her up and paid her?
There is a man who is now a missionary overseas who dated this woman, says, I don't believe her. She's got to be lying. And he showed a picture of his yearbook with her signature and her handwriting. And it looks exactly like this part, Old Hickory House, that looks exactly like her handwriting. Okay, we've been over this 100 times.
It's a different color.
Yeah.
Okay, it's a different stinking color. That is black. That is like bluish.
Right. Okay, so I also want to bring out another.
And I'm going to argue with a missionary.
Another interesting fact here. There was a girl who was signed to the University of Alabama, Birmingham in 2001. At 15 years old, she was a prodigy. They sought her out like a, recruited her like a star athlete.
Yes.
Well, she got put in a co-ed dorm.
Okay.
And got served alcohol. And a lot of these guys on the football team were in this dorm, and they passed her around. She was 15 and young. So she sued the college.
Okay.
Her parents and her sued the college for not taking care of her, not keeping an eye on her, and things like that. She's 15. Doug Jones, this man who is running against Roy Moore, defended the college and victim shamed this victim, called her a liar. But now he wants to say that the accusers of Roy Moore should be believed. But hers is way more believable. She had witnesses.
Yeah.
She's 15 years old, being given alcohol by football players on the football team, being passed around. 15. Who and he defended the school against her.
Wow.
Okay? This is somebody who the facts were all laid out. There were witnesses. This was a thing. Okay?
So kind of like Hillary proves a pattern.
Yeah,
it proves how a pattern. They feel about who they're.
He doesn't
defending.
care, is what I'm trying to say.
Right.
He doesn't care. Trump is standing by Roy Moore. Says we don't need a liberal Democrat in that seat.
Yes.
You know what happened? I just heard about Conyers 2 minutes ago. As far as Franken's concerned, he's going to have to speak for himself. I'd rather have him speak for himself. What? We had a great call with President Putin. We're talking about peace in Syria, very important. We're talking about North Korea. We had a call that lasted almost an hour and a half. We just put out a release on the call, but we're talking very strongly about bringing peace to Syria. We're talking very strongly about North Korea and Ukraine. Can't hear you. It's louder. Well, I'm not going to get involved in litigation, but personally, I've always felt that that was a deal that's not good for the country. I think your pricing is going to go up. I don't think it's a good deal for the country, but I'm not going to get involved. It's litigation. Thank you, everybody. Have a very great Thanksgiving. Well, he denies. I mean, Roy Moore denies it. And by the way, he gives a total denial. And I do have to say, 40 years is a long time. He's run 8 races, and this has never come up. So 40 years is a long time. The women are Trump voters. Most of them are Trump voters. All you can do is you have to do what you have to do. He totally denies it.
Young girls, Mr. President, they were young girls at the time. They say they were 14-year-old girls. The names of lawmakers who have settled on sexual harassment claims.
I do. I really do. I think they should. Thank you. Have a good Thanksgiving, everybody.
Do your accusers, Mr. President.
So this woman keeps saying they were 14-year-old girls. So this is where the lying mainstream media comes up.
Right.
There is only one
right
who said she was 14.
Mm-hmm.
So this has gotten way out of hand. This whole pedophile craziness. And listen, we hate pedophiles. Yes. I think they should all have their wee-wees whacked off and be put on a pedophile island.
Which is really funny because you had somebody on Twitter saying that you were defending pedophiles. And if anybody knows that Leah Michelle come out strong against the pedophiles and believe that they should go to whack-a-knack-it-off island, it's Leah and Michelle. Okay? But when there's an innocent man, you stand with the innocent man. Men should never be falsely accused, especially when it is pushed and funded by the lying mainstream media. Right. It is plain as the nose on my face, man.
Right.
All right, that this is something that they have done conveniently before one of the most important elections. This is about Steve Bannon coming out, trying to drain the swamp.
And the swamp creatures are throwing mud.
Yes, they're coming out.
So we have a brand new article that I have actually not read. I've only read the headline. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Court documents raise significant questions about Leah Korfman's accusations against Roy Moore. Now, Leah Korfman is the only 14-year-old to come out. Now, the backstory of Leah Korfman is somehow, we've told you this before, somehow Leah Korfman was approached by the Washington Post. That in and of itself is insane. I am not sitting in my room being contacted by a national newspaper.
Right.
How did they find her?
Correct.
She went in search of them. Okay? And then she said, I will only come forward if you bring more...
You just said she went, and you meant she as in the journalist.
No, Leah Korfman obviously had to go to a lawyer, and then the lawyer had to go and try to find the Washington Post, somebody who would publish her story.
Right.
Okay? And so she said to the Washington Post, Leah said to the Washington Post, if you find other accusers, I'll come forward. Well, they didn't find other accusers. They found 17, 18, and 19-year-old women who dated him.
And that's illegal.
Who did nothing wrong.
It's not illegal.
Who don't even say. And one of them was a Joe Biden Hillary supporter. Okay.
Right.
So, court documents involving Leah Korfman, who says that Alabama senatorial candidate Roy Moore tried to engage in a sexual encounter with her when she was 14, raised questions about the timeline and the narrative of Korfman's accusations against the politician. Those accusations were first publicly disclosed in the Washington Post story citing Korfman and her mother, Nancy Wells, as saying that in early 1979, Roy Moore, then a 32-year-old assistant district attorney, allegedly asked Wells to watch her 14-year-old daughter while Wells went into a courtroom for a custody hearing. Now, here's the thing. I remember being 14. My mama didn't ask anybody to watch me. I was babysitting at 11 and 12 and 13 years old.
True story.
And I've seen her picture at 14 years old. No one needs to watch a 14-year-old ever. Ever. 14-year-olds watch children, babies. That's you call up 12 and 13 and 14-year-old girls to watch your kids. That's what you do. We get used as slaves. $3 an hour, man.
It was $3 an hour.
It was $3 an hour.
It was like $1 an hour a kid, man.
That's what it was. If they only had 2 kids, it was $2 an hour. Dang. Korfman claims that Moore asked the young. Remember when we were there for like 3 hours and you got $10?
Yes, I remember that. Yes, I remember that. All of you people that I babysat for are probably watching. Forking over.
Korfman claims that Moore asked the young Korfman for her number. Days later, she says, he picked her up around the corner from her house at Gadsden. The Post story states, referring to her mother's home in Gadsden. Korfman's parents were divorced. The first private meeting was arranged after Moore called Korfman on her home phone at her mother's house, Korfman alleges. Korfman says that Moore took her to his home, put his arm around her, and kissed her. And Korfman told the Post that she had asked Moore to drive her home because she was feeling nervous, and he obliged. Soon after, she says he called again and picked her up at the same spot without proving an exact timeline. That is when Korfman says Moore drove her back to his house and touched her and things like that. She says that after their last encounter, Moore called again, but that she found an excuse not to see him again. Regarding the original court hearing, where Korfman says that Moore asked her for her number while Wells went inside the courtroom, the Post reported that it confirmed that her mother attended a hearing at the courthouse in February 1979 through divorce records. A thorough search of court documents finds one court case in February 1979, a case that took place on February 21st, 1979. The Post failed to tell the readers that at that February 21st, 1979 court case, Wells voluntarily gave up custody of Korfman to Korfman's father, Robert R. Korfman.
So she's so concerned that she needed to be watched that she just gave up custody.
No mama, no mother in 1979 gives up custody of her 14-year-old daughter to her daddy. That did not happen. When I was a child, every mother got custody. In 1980, when our parents got divorced?
Yeah.
Mamas always got custody.
Right.
That's the way it works. If this mother voluntarily gave up custody
without a fight,
she had a mental problem.
Correct.
There was something wrong with her, which leads to me to say that she is a liar.
Liar!
She voluntarily gave up custody. The two had been divorced since 1974. They were already divorced. 5 years later, she voluntarily gives up custody.
Strange.
The custody case was amicable and involved a joint petition by both parents. The Post further did not tell readers that as a result of the joint petition to change custody, the court ordered the 14-year-old Korfman to move to her father's house, starting on March 4th, 1979. Court documents show the father's address as Ohatchee and not in Gadsden, where her mother lived, and where Korfman says the meeting with Moore took place. This is open and shut. This would mean that from the court hearing on February 21st, 1979, until Korfman was ordered to move to her father's house, Moore would have only had 12 days, including the day of the court hearing, to have repeatedly called Korfman at her mother's Gadsden house, arranged 2 meetings, and attempt another. Moore has strenuously denied the accusations. While that timeline is theoretically possible, the Moore campaign stressed in a press conference today it is unlikely. Ben Dupree, Moore's former chief of staff on the Alabama Supreme Court, spoke today on behalf of the campaign. Dupree noted that, as best as we can tell, the February 21st, 1979 case was the only court movement to have taken place that month. Breitbart News also could not find another court document from that month. The disclosure raises questions about why that 12-day window was not mentioned in the Post story or by Wells or Korfman in subsequent interviews. Neither Korfman nor Wells publicly mentioned the change in custody during the critical period where Moore was said to have arranged meetings with Korfman outside of her mother's home. Now remember, she says that Moore called her on her own on her phone in her own room, and her mother even says she didn't have one in her room. Earlier this month...
and did that many people have phones in their rooms, like with their own phone number in 1979?
I don't know. Maybe, I think they might have in the Brady Bunch. I don't know. So, Breitbart News interviewed Wells as she discussed Moore's alleged calls to Korfman as taking place at her home. Breitbart News revealed the custody and divorce documents in full. The custody arrangement allowed for reasonable rights of visitation for Wells, including an alternate weekends and full custody for 1 week starting on December 24th. However, that 1 week of custody in December does not fit into the timeline of Moore allegedly arranging the meetings after the February hearing.
Here's the thing also, that they're not talking about just, as a human to human, we can relate to this story in some sort of manner. After a custody hearing like that happens and you're going to be moving to your dad's house, there's a lot of stuff that's going to be going on at your house, okay? Emotionally, also you're going to be packing. The fact that you have the time to be receiving and taking calls and setting up dates with somebody that's making moves on you that you don't like and who's 32 and you're 14, and somehow the mom lets that happen.
So
the whole thing
there's
is just...
another key to this. She says that after that encounter, she began to feel like she had done something wrong. She kept a secret for years. She felt responsible, and that her teenage life became increasingly reckless with drinking and drugs and boyfriends and a suicide attempt when she was 16. So the Post failed to mention, I'm going to get to something here, that the very reason for the February 21st, 1979 court hearing where Moore allegedly met Korfman was because, according to the court documents, Korfman had exhibited certain disciplinary and behavioral problems. In other words, Korfman evidenced behavioral problems prior to the alleged encounters with Moore. When a mama gives up the custody of her 14-year-old daughter to the dad,
gotta be a reason.
She's already sleeping around.
I can't handle this.
She's already drinking. Mm-hmm. She's already partying.
Yep.
She's already... You can't trust somebody like that. I knew girls like that. And they would lie at the drop of a hat. She does not have the character. I'm sorry if, let's say it was true. I'm sorry, she does not have the character. And that's why they call them character witnesses.
Right. To
accuse someone 30 or 40 years before.
Right. At the time, maybe. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. You could definitely. 1 year later, on May 5th, 1980, which would have been after any alleged encounters with Moore, Wells filed a new petition to take back custody of her daughter. That petition stated that Korfman's disciplinary problem has greatly improved. And the stated change in behavior is important because Korfman's disciplinary and behavioral problems were cited as the reason for the father taking custody. The improvement in behavior described by Wells seems to conflict with Korfman's claim that
she
after
went
the encounter,
cray after Moore just totally... I can understand, and listen, I really shouldn't say this because I'll probably get jumped for it, but this is my thought. In all honesty, if he had raped her, if that would have been the accusation, an actual rape, right, I can understand that making you go crazy. But somebody just trying to, and then not, like, okay, you don't want that, then fine, I'll take you home. That is not going to traumatize you enough,
right,
to make your entire teenage years go crazy. And then, like you just pointed out, that doesn't actually go with the court documentation of she got better. So somehow what Moore did to you allegedly actually did happen, then it made you better, sister.
Right. And the intersection where he was told to pick her up was a mile from her house. And she says it was around the corner from her house, but it was a mile from her house.
So she's walking a mile to meet up.
She says it was around her corner. A mile is pretty far.
Yes, it is.
And Dupree says that intersection was almost a mile away from the mother's house at the time and would have been across a major thoroughfare. It's debunked. We have debunked it. There is no Korfman. There is no Nelson. Roy Moore is innocent. I can sleep at night. I am fine. Yes.
She ain't been sleeping, people. It's all I have been hearing about for the past week. This Roy Moore thing really bothered me. I couldn't sleep all night.
All right, so one more thing on Al Franken.
Yay, Frankenstein.
So this chick, her name is Ariana Huffington of the Huffington Post. And at first we see this picture come out where he does this picture with her and everybody's like, oh my gosh, there you go again. And she comes out and says this was fine. It was part of a skit. It was part of a gag. The photographer says she looked uncomfortable. And this woman says, I'm the one who should be saying whether I'm uncomfortable. You can tell that it wasn't expected. Now, when you look at these pictures, he has a thing that groping women
up
top is fun. It's a funny joke to him.
Right.
He needs to step down because he has a pattern of behavior. And the left is saying he's apologized, let's move on. He's apologized, let's move on. He has changed his behavior. Well, how do we know he's changed his behavior? What does that even mean, he's changed his behavior? It does, if it enters your mind to grab someone as a joke, that's not a thing anymore. Okay? That's just not a thing. So he needs to step down. It's putrid behavior, as I said. And as I do joke, Al Franken, who has come out vehemently against Donald Trump, he has spoken with Donald Trump and said, my problem with you isn't that you tried to grab them by the blank. You needed to grab them up top. That's the cool place.
Is that what he said?
No.
Oh,
I'm joking.
Okay.
It's a joke.
Okay.
It's a joke.
I was like, no, really?
All right, so we can move on to some other
All
real
right,
news.
so Bob Homestead keeps asking us to cover James Marin. I'm not familiar with that one. Are you?
No.
Okay. Well, we will look into that, Bob Homestead, and perhaps bring it tomorrow or one of the next days that we go live. I want to reiterate one more time. Like Leah keeps saying, you got to bring it back to baseball. This is not a women against men thing. Okay? Because you guys know us here at Resistance Chicks. We highly respect men. This is a creeps report. Okay? These men are creepy. It is wrong. We need to get back to the basics in America, in our societies, where you treat a woman like a lady. And these men obviously don't. And what happens is there are women like this Huffington lady who want to excuse the behavior, and all the CNN reporters coming out and just excusing the behavior. So women are at fault here. We got some nasty, 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 perverted, weird, sick women in society, and we cover them a lot. We talk about Madonna and Ashley Judd and all of that.
And this guy here, actually...
Oh, no, this
is supposed to be Justin Bieber's pastor.
My grandma Marilyn came out and she said, she commented on this post that Leah shared, and she said, well, his first name must be Pastor because I don't think that he is actually a pastor of any church.
I gotta tell you, pastors wear underwear. That's all I gotta say about that one.
All right, so our friend Stacy, she's not here tonight. Rose of Sharon Homestead, she's a moderator. She also commented on there, and she said 1 inch lower and his junk is coming out.
Not even an inch.
It was, did you show him the picture? You don't have to go back and show the picture, but I mean, come on. Justin Bieber's pastor, all right? The church, Hillsong, is one of the most worldly...
secular.
And I told this to Leah the other day. She was doing the dishes, and I said, I'll tell you what Justin Bieber did. He left during the height of his career. Boy got saved, found Jesus, and entered into a church where he's going to have thousands and thousands of people fawning over him. He's still... It doesn't matter. When you're a musician, you don't really feel the fan flame like all of the time. But if you're going to church Wednesday, Friday, Sunday, and at church you're the Beeb, and everybody thinks that you're some sort of hot stuff, I mean, that's all he wanted was the praise and accolades. He found it in church. Boy didn't find Jesus. He found being treated like an idol. That's what he found.
Yeah, so how many of you want to watch a piece of this LeVar Ball interview with Chris Como?
Oh, painful.
Prepares for Thanksgiving. The president seems to have attention seeker who dismissed the president's efforts to CNN. The president taking the bait when Mr. Ball, told ESPN that he didn't think it was a big deal. The president called him, quote, very ungrateful. So the table is now set for what could be an epic clash of smack talkers. Tonight, LeVar Ball is here, and he has a message for the president. Mr. Ball, thank you for taking the opportunity.
I know what went on.
No problem. Did you ever think
that you would be on CNN discussing geopolitics and the President of the United States?
Never in my wildest dreams.
So, as we live this dream, let's discuss how we got here. Your son was with UCLA. They're playing ball over in China. They get detained with allegations that they stole merchandise from a store. The president finds out about it. He, of course, is in China. He's meeting with President Xi. He gets involved. The boys are released. They get to come back home, which was never a certainty until he got involved. He says that...
Well, how do you know it? How do you know it wasn't involved before I even knew that? I mean, he didn't even know they was over there and like that. Okay, what was the reason for him going over there in the first place?
The president was in China to meet with the president of China and discuss trade matters, but he certainly was informed
and that's
about the boys when he was in China, and that's why he got involved, he says.
Why was he there?
Okay, he didn't get involved till he got to China?
I don't understand your
question. So
he
wasn't going over there beforehand?
He was going over there
before.
What are you trying to say?
It wasn't like he was in the U.S. and said, okay, there's 3 kids in China. I need to go over there and get them.
Okay.
That wasn't a thought process.
All right.
Okay.
Right.
What we're talking about right now is a lot of stuff about my son just because his last name is Ball. We're not even talking about the other 2 kids.
Well, to be honest, we're talking about your son.
Thank you.
We're talking about your son.
I'm talking about my son too.
Right, but we're talking about your son because of you and what you said. This isn't picking on your son. It's because of how you inserted yourself into this and seemed to disrespect the president's efforts.
It's when somebody asks me a question. That's not disrespectful if I feel nobody did anything. I don't have to say go around saying thank you to everybody. I mean,
you don't have to go around saying thank you to everybody.
I didn't shake his hand. He didn't have to say that, but I'm just saying. If I have to know what somebody's doing before I say thank you. I'm just not gonna go around saying thank you.
All right, so let's.
Now, you come and shake my hand and meet me or meet my son or anybody, and then say, you know what, maybe I can help you out. Okay, let's do it that way. But just because people say things, you know, it's supposed to be true. Like, hey, I stopped them from saving 10 years. Maybe we was doing some talking with some other people before he even got there. So I'm saying. There's a lot of other matters to go around for the president to deal with that's political.
All right, let's take one step back.
As far as me, let me deal with my son and let him do what he's going to do.
All right, Mr. Ball, let's take one step back because you seem to have doubts about what the president did. You said you were talking to people.
No, I don't have no doubts about what he did. I got doubts of what he didn't do. How's that?
You have doubts not about what he did, but what he didn't do.
Hey, I'm going to tell you.
Heather. She says this man is a complete idiot and is a rambling moron. Wait, Chris Cuomo? He says he's like you don't have doubts about what he did, but you have doubts about what he didn't do. And he just can't get it.
Do this. If I'm coming to get you,
yes.
If I'm coming to get you, let's say I'm coming to get you out of trouble. If I'm coming to get you out of trouble, you best believe I'm gonna take you with me. So if I come over here and say, excuse me, sir, whoever, can you do something for this kid or this person and allow me to take them with me? That's if I'm doing something for somebody.
All right, so
I'm not going to come over there.
Let's just get right to it. So,
let's be a little lenient on it, but I'm out of here.
All right, is what you're saying that because the president of the United States didn't bring the boys home with him, he therefore didn't do enough? Or do you think he really didn't do anything?
I didn't say nothing about him. I didn't say nothing about him.
You're kind of like talking about him without saying his name. I'm just trying to clear up the confusion.
I'm coming back home and I'm just saying anything. There ain't no confusion.
There's a lot of confusion.
It's just somebody asked me a question and I gave us a lot of confusion to you.
It's a lot of confusion to me. It is. That's why I needed you on. Do you think the president
why is it confusing?
Because I don't understand what you're saying. I am concerned. Did you think that the president helped the boys get out?
That's because you have to listen very slowly, carefully.
I'm trying.
Did he help the boys get out? I don't know.
Why do you doubt
I don't know. If I was going to thank somebody, I'd probably thank President Xi.
President Xi.
I'll thank him. He's in China. He's the head of
True.
The president in China.
True. And the president of the United States said
somebody can make a suggestion. Somebody can make a suggestion, and somebody could do something. You got people that make suggestions. You got people that do things.
I just don't understand your skepticism
a lot of people
about
be like, hey, why don't you be a little lenient? What is the skepticism about? Why are we even talking about this with all these political matters going on in the world?
Well, but this is the one that concerns your involvement.
Somebody's going to go and tweet, and my involvement is always going to be with my son, but I don't have to deal with everybody around me.
I
just got to
understand
make
that.
sure he's taken care of.
But the president-
But there's a lot of people that can go around and say, LeVar, this is what I did for your son. I did this for your son. I did this. He'd never be where he was if I didn't do this for him. I'm not trying to hear all that.
I know, but there's
I'm just
a
saying, when
difference
you go
between.
over there, what are we talking about? We're
Hold on,
talking
LeVar,
about
there's a difference between
a president doing something for my son.
Yes, that's what we're talking about. We got it. Now we're on the same page.
Okay.
So the president.
What did he do for my son?
The president says that he spoke to the Chinese president. He says that the boys
Okay,
were
that was nice.
informed
That was nice.
that the involvement of the president of the United States mattered, and that then he wanted some thanks, and instead you said, who? What was he, Trump, over there for? Don't tell me nothing.
He wanted some thanks.
Everybody
He
wants to
wanted
make
some
it seem
thanks
like
from
he
who?
helped me out.
I mean, you're trying to make it sound like that. I'm just saying.
That's what you said.
I didn't meet Winnie face to face. I know exactly what I said, but you buffing it up like you said that you don't want to say thank you to nobody. No, come meet me like a man, shake
I was
my
trying
hand,
to
and
say
tell
it
me
much
what
more
you done for
evenly
me.
than that. I was trying to be much more even. I don't
Well,
want to. I'm not trying to
I
add
know how
tone
you were
to
trying
it.
to say it, but that's okay.
I'm trying to say
trying
with
to
an
add tone
even
to it, 'cause
tone.
that's what you do.
No. What I try to
And you
do is
can't
try
say
to
it with an
figure
even
out
tone.
what's going on.
Trying to see Chris Como use ebonics. He's like, no. I don't talk like that. I talk even.
On, LeVar. Why would you push back on the president?
You can open your eyes and see what's going on. I'm not saying nothing to the president. I'm not just saying thank you to anybody for nothing. I'm just saying I had some things done. I talked to some people that did some other things too.
Ooh.
And then, like I said, people trying to, it doesn't matter.
Sure it does.
I mean, it's not big names like you're thinking of. So like I'm saying, people are saying, and I said it wasn't a big deal that my son was shoplifting or nothing like that. I'm saying like this, it wasn't a big deal because being raised in South Central LA, I've seen harsher things. I've seen 16 and 17-year-old kids have to go to jail for life that were my friends. Doing bad things, making bad decisions. Doing stuff that's harming people.
Trying to accept
Right, but
that.
do you understand why when people see these allegations and you say it's not a big deal?
He wasn't physical. We returned it. He fessed up to it. It wasn't like he was like, nah, I didn't take him.
Right.
I mean, nobody got hurt. He didn't run in there with the assumption of, hey, I can't wait till I get to China because I'm going to get some good stuff. It was an impulse thing, a bad decision at a bad time. That's all it was. For an 18-year-old who never done anything wrong, never been late to class, 4.0 student, I don't think people were going to demean him over one bad decision.
Why you gotta steal it?
Concerning that it was victimless. He didn't grab nobody's arm. He didn't do nothing. He tried to slide something away, understood what he did, but it's not going without punishment. But I don't think you should come down on a kid for making one mistake like that
I don't
at 18 years old. That's why I
don't
thought
think that
things
what
would
we're
be
seeing in
okay.
the coverage of this is that the boys are being demonized for what they did. There's no question that there are much worse crimes than shoplifting.
It doesn't matter.
But shoplifting does matter. And in China,
It's
you
still a
go
crime.
to jail
It's just
for
like
it.
people said in China. But listen, you go to jail.
In fact, you could go
if
to
you do
jail
it in the
here
USA,
for it.
and you get caught. People try to make they try to make it a big deal, like they're saying.
Well, it is kind of a big
you
deal.
shoplift
You
in
can go to
China,
jail.
boy, that's big time. You going to jail? You can go to jail anywhere you take anything. So that's the point that shouldn't even be said.
I know, but
It's
in
saying if
China,
you got something and you want it, you shouldn't just go and steal
Hold on
it.
a second.
You can go to Africa or somewhere and do the same thing. Anywhere you go in somebody else's country, yes, it's going to be a little deeper than where you thought it was.
all right.
And,
So-
that's a fine thing, but we already got that point across.
All right, so let's put the boys aside. We know what they.
He is obviously not aware of what life is like in China.
did. You say that they apologized.
Okay.
That's good. Now,
Right.
they
Yes.
were in a place
Yes.
that didn't need to let them go. And they could have been held for a long time.
They were in a place that didn't let him go. He said he got him out of jail, right?
Go.
He said, you heard what he tweeted. He tweeted, because he's mad at me, I should have left their asses in jail. First of all, they wasn't in jail. They was in a hotel. Now, how'd they get to the hotel on bail?
Did you make that happen?
Somebody had to do something.
Did you do it?
I'm just telling you, somebody had to do it. Did he do it?
I'm asking you, did you do it?
I'm asking you. I'm asking you, did he do it?
He says he helped get them out of China.
Okay, if he paid for the money to put up whatever we needed to do, then I would say thank you. Did he do that?
So that's the
'Cause I don't know
bar? If he
did.
doesn't put up bail for the
I don't-
boys,
I don't-
then
I
he
don't know
doesn't
if he did or
deserve
not.
thanks? Come on.
No, it's not if he didn't put up bail. He said he helped. How did he help? If he helped, I would say thank you.
He says he spoke to the president of China and that was relayed to you and the boys, that you were told that he helped.
So anybody who speaks to the president, I should thank anybody who speaks to the president?
No, but this is the president of the United States who spoke to the Chinese president. That's not just anybody. You know what kind of power he has. I don't get why you're hiding from this.
Who's just not anybody?
I don't get why you're ducking this, to be honest with you.
For nothing.
I don't understand.
If I was ducking this, I wouldn't even be here talking to you.
Well,
you seem like I'm ducking, but I don't duck nobody.
You're talking around it. You're talking around it.
You don't understand it.
Why couldn't you just say thank you to the president? Your son said thank you.
Why are you talking around it?
I'm talking right at it.
How much intel do you have on the situation? Were you there?
I was not there.
I can't hear you. Okay, then. Unless you were there, then you can talk to me.
You can hear.
I was there.
You don't have to be there.
I was there in China.
I understand.
know you weren't there, though. But you see,
but hold on a second. LeVar Ball, you were there, but you don't know.
I was there.
I know you were.
I do know what I did.
Do you think the president helped? Okay. Do you think the president helped?
Do I think the president helped?
Yes.
I don't know.
So do you think he would be lying about helping?
You can say what you want. I didn't see him talk. I don't care and I don't know. I wasn't there. I'm not going to say nothing I don't know and I don't see and I don't hear.
So the president of the United States says he helped, and you say if you didn't see it, you didn't hear it, you don't believe it.
Hey, if he said he helped, that's good for his mind.
What do you mean good for his mind?
But why I even got to say that? If you help, you shouldn't have to say anything. If you help, you shouldn't have to. If I help somebody, I don't walk around saying, I help you now. Come on now, you give me some love. I helped you. Man, come on, for real.
All right.
Somebody told me about the tweet a couple of days ago. I don't even tweet. I'm just saying, why is that on your mind? All this stuff going on, and that's on your mind that a father didn't say thank you? And you're supposed to be the head of, you're the head of the U.S.? Come on.
Okay. Fair criticism. The president is asking for thanks. You can criticize that. Should he be doing that? Should he not be doing that?
I'm just stating the point that I'm saying is there's a lot of other things that's going on, man.
No question about it.
Let him do his political affairs and let me handle my son, and let's just stay in our lane.
But he thinks that he did something for the boys and he should be thanked, and instead you took a shot at him.
That's fine. If he thinks it, I ain't took a shot at him.
You did.
Somebody asked me a question, man. I gave him my opinion, but I ain't taking no shot at the president for what?
It sounded like you were taking a shot at the president. It sounded like it.
Hey, I mean,
it did.
You can sound like that because you want it to be like that, but it's not. But why would it sound like that? That's because you want to take it that way, so you can have some news, and I can get on here and talk to you and keep you going.
You won't say thank you. Hey, thanks. Your son said thank you. The other guy said thank you. So you say thanks. Thanks for helping me.
I'm not the other guys, though. I'm not the other guys. I'm doing something else. I'm not the other guys.
What do you see? I agree with you. You're not the other guys.
I know you're trying to round something up.
No, I think you are.
That's part of your job.
I think you
I don't get easily
are.
tussled like that.
I think you are. I think you're very clever. I see your big smile on your face.
Are you going to say thank you to me?
I'm going to say thank you at the end of this interview. I will thank you. I guarantee it.
No, are you going to say thank me now?
I guarantee it. You know why?
Are you going to thank me now?
You know why?
Are you going to thank me now?
Not yet. You haven't earned it yet.
Why are you going to thank me?
Haven't earned it yet.
But no, why are you not going to thank me?
Haven't earned it yet.
Thank me right now.
When you
like
earn
the word
it, I'll thank you. We're still short on it.
Thank you.
We're still short. Your son said thank you for helping
Can
him
you say thank you, Mr. LeVar Ball?
I will
Can you say thank you, Mr. LeVar Ball, for having this?
Listen.
How about we do it now? I just want to hear it.
You know what? I'll show you what.
I just want to hear it now.
Just to be decent, just because it's a nice thing to do.
Yeah.
Mr. Ball, thank you
for
being
nice
here with me on CNN tonight. Don Lemon thanks you from wherever he is.
How hard was that?
And in fact, Don Lemon should thank me for talking to you on his show right now.
Hey, why are you thanking me, though? Just to say thank you?
Wait, hold on. Will you thank me back?
Why are you thanking me? Give me a couple of reasons.
Will you thank me back first?
Give me a couple of reasons why you thanking me.
First, thank me back.
I'm just asking, give me a couple of reasons. I got to know why you just thanking me. You just can't say thank you
You
and
took
thank
time
you
to be
just
on
to be
this
telling
show.
me to be quiet.
There are other things you could have done.
I'm just saying. Yes.
That's why I'm thanking you.
And come on.
But
and that's why you thanking me.
It doesn't take much to say thank you. Why won't you say thank you to the president?
It doesn't make. Well, if somebody does something for you, then you say thank you.
Somebody did something for you.
That's your opinion that he's done for me? Okay. I would say thank you if he would have put him on his plane and took him home.
There is.
Then I would have said, thank you, Mr. Trump, for taking my boys out of China and bringing them back to the U.S. There's a lot of room on that plane.
So
I would have said, thank you kindly for that.
So, because he didn't take them home on the plane, no thank you.
That's what it is.
Well, I'm just saying, that's how I would say thank you. I'm just saying, you might say thank you a different way. You just say thank you like it's any kind of
It's not
way.
how you'll say thank you, it's
thank you.
when
I
you'll say thank you.
I can tell you don't mean nothing about it.
That's not true. When I say thank you, I mean it.
You change back and forth.
I mean it.
Well, hey, don't get so excited now.
When I say thank you, I mean it.
Come on.
I mean it. When I say thank you, I mean it.
No, you don't.
You can't.
You know how I can tell?
Tell me.
You know how I can tell?
Tell me.
I ain't gonna tell you because I'm gonna let you figure it out on your own. I got you.
That was good. That was good. I'll give you that.
A little laughter never hurt nobody.
But with
me,
it's one thing. With the President of the United States,
yes.
I think you are enjoying this back and forth. But my question is, are you worried you've taken on too big an opponent?
Let me ask you this question. Let me ask you this question. He's not an opponent because I don't know Trump like that. I haven't done nothing to him. He hasn't done anything to me. So I don't consider him an opponent. I just consider him a human being and the President of the United States.
Well,
that's it. That's his title.
All of that is true.
My title is LeVar Ball, the big baller, the CEO of the Big Baller brand. We just got our titles like that. But we still both men and we both human. But I'm not going to go out and be like, if a person doesn't say something to me or for me, I'm not going to tweet. I'm not going to do all that.
But you do.
What? I mean, is it that big of a deal?
You do feel.
But is it that big of a deal though?
I think
I'm just asking you, is that big of a deal? If it's a huge big deal,
because the president responded, and it sems like you're in a little bit of a war of words with the most powerful man in the world.
Why would I be in war with a guy with the most powerful man in the world? I said, if somebody's talking to me, don't tell me nothing. Exactly, and that's what he does.
I know.
So
you
don't
I'm
worry
talking
about
about
what's going on the outside. I'm towards people.
But
if you invite me somewhere and you do something nice to me, I'm going to say thank you.
I think you've made this way more difficult than you need.
Thank you kindly, sir.
I think you've made this more difficult than you needed to, and you wound up provoking the President of the United States.
You know what? You making this more difficult. LeVar didn't say thank you to the president.
You didn't.
So that makes me a bad person?
No, I'm just saying you didn't thank him.
Just swim on this?
And it doesn't make any sense why you won't thank him.
Did you thank the doctor for bringing you into this world? Well, you better go back and find him because you lucky. Yeah, look at listen. See, that's what I'm talking about. You need somebody like me to loosen you up a little bit. You wound up tight.
I am. The president calls me a chained lunatic.
See? Is that what the president?
Did you call the doctor that gave you birth?
No,
I guarantee you that your mama and your daddy said thank you to the doctor that helped bring you into this world.
And that's enough thanks.
And so if your daddy could thank the president for just helping you not serve 10 years in Chinese prison for shoplifting.
I'm going to tell you all what we're going to do. Okay? We're going to download this video. We're going to cut that segment out, and we're just going to put it up by itself.
Yeah.
Us. And the reactions to that, because that was by far one of the funnest things. Most fun. Is funnest a word? One of the most enjoyable segments.
Cuomo.
On Don Lemon's show.
You are not exactly my favorite, but I have to tell you, there are moments where you shine. This is one of those moments where you shined.
Big shining.
You shined, and it made me just so happy and entertained. And LeVar Ball, did your mama drop you on your head? Because
did she drop the ball on that one?
I think he dropped the ball on that one. Because that was something. I mean, that was who's on first, what's on second.
That's exactly what it was.
You know what? We're going to bring that up. This is what this was.
It's really enjoyable.
Back to the baseball.
Yes. I actually tried out for a talent show with this skit.
Why not let the folks themselves ask for something that they like to hear? I am the manager.
That's good.
Now, you're going to be the manager of the retired actors baseball team? Yes. I would like to join the retired actors baseball team. Oh, you would? And I would like to know some of the guys' names on the team, so if I want to play with them, I know them, and I meet them on the street or in the home here, I can say hello to them. Oh, sure. But you know they give baseball players nowadays very peculiar names. I know, a lot of funny names. You know, like Stinky Fields. Stinky Fields. Goofy Dan. Boopy Bobber. Booby Bobber. I know all those.
Well, let's see now. We have on our team, we have who's on first, what's on second, I don't know who's on third.
That's what I want to find out, the guy's name. That's what I want to find out, the guy's name.
I'm telling you, who's on first, what's on second, I don't know who's on third.
Now, Abbott, you going to be the manager of the baseball team?
Yes.
You know the guy's names?
Well, I should.
Well, you told me the guy's names on the baseball team.
I say, who's on first, what's on second, I don't know who's on third.
You ain't saying nothing to me yet. Go ahead and tell me.
I'm telling him.
You ain't said nothing yet. Go ahead and tell me.
Who's on first, what's on second, I don't know is on third.
You know the guy's names on the baseball team?
Yes.
Well, go ahead. Who's on first?
Yes.
I mean the guy's name.
Who?
The guy playing first.
Who?
The guy playing first base.
Who?
The guy on first base.
Who is on first?
What are you asking me for? I don't know.
Wait a minute.
I'm asking you who's on first.
That's his name.
Well, go ahead and tell me.
Who?
The guy on first.
That's it. That's his name.
Well, you ain't said nothing. I ain't asked you nothing.
You did.
You know the guy's name on first base?
Sure.
Tell me the guy's name on first base.
Who?
The guy playing first base.
Who is on first, Lou?
What are you asking me for?
Don't get excited. I'm saying who.
I'm asking you a simple question. Who's on first?
Yes.
Well, go ahead and tell me.
That's it.
That's who? I'm asking you, what's the guy's name on first base?
Oh, no. What's on second?
I'm not asking you who's on second.
Who's on first?
One base at a time.
Don't mix up my...
I'm not mixing up anybody. Now, what's the guy's name on first base?
Now, what is on second?
I'm not asking you who's on second.
Who is on first?
I don't know.
He's on first. We're not...
Wait a minute. Whoa.
Now, well, let's not
Whoa. How did I get on third base?
You mentioned his name.
I mentioned his name.
Yes.
I don't know anybody's name on the team. How could I mention a guy's name?
You did. You just mentioned it.
All right. What's the guy's name?
Okay.
That's what that interview was like.
That is exactly what that was like, and equally as enjoyable, more painful, I would say.
Okay,
Definitely more.
So
painful.
we're going to round this episode up. It is getting late. We have real news.
We do.
Alas. Yeah.
We don't have time to cover the real news.
You're right. You know what? We'll cover real news tomorrow.
Real news tomorrow.
Fusion GP1. Tonight it was just funny.
Tonight was naked, baseball, and who's on first, which really rounds up what we were talking about at the beginning. I think.
Yep. I think that we're done.
We are done. I don't
know what?
know.
I'm going to end. I'm going to end with Michelle Malkin.
Yeah, but that's a long interview.
It's 2 seconds, 2 minutes.
Oh, well.
Every woman gets to be heard except for Republican gun-toting stay-at-home moms.
Ancient history. You're going to have all of these liberal wheedlers out there asking, oh, why is Sean Hannity and Michelle Malkin and Sebastian Gorka talking about Bill Clinton? It's because so much of the mess that we're in now is a result and legacy of the Clinton victim smear machine. These two are the godparents, Hillary and Bill Clinton, the godparents of victim shaming smear tactics. And now we've got this case where you've got all of these liberal media journalists who are tying themselves in yoga knots to try and reconcile their own roles and their own culpability in enabling the Clinton smears against all of his accusers and victims with the left-wing feminist ideology of believing all women. And now what we know, of course, is it's not revelation. It's merely confirmation, Sean, that the idea that we should believe all women has an exception. Really, the rules for Radicals 2017 has always been that you should believe all women except when they are accusing liberal Democratic men and liberal Hollywood weirdos. There's a second corollary to that unwritten rule that is now being exploded and exposed for the farce that it is. And that second corollary is this, Sean and Dr. Gorka, it's this, that all women must be respected, unless, of course, they are female Republicans, conservatives, pro-lifers, stay-at-home moms, and gun owners. I have lived this for the past 25 years in public life, along with all of the women who've been smeared by leftists in the media and in the Democrat Party. We're always treated as less than women, as less than human. And when we have called out the misogyny and the hypocrisy and the double standards of the left, we get attacked even more. The hypocrisy and double standards are thicker than Thanksgiving gravy.
I love the way she said that.
Thicker than Thanksgiving gravy, which is actually very fitting. Somebody had asked what time we are going to go live tomorrow. Here's the deal, guys. I wish that we could tell you what time we plan to go live each day ahead of time, but we run a home-based business. We have a homestead. So the only days that we can actually commit to giving you a time,
Fridays at 6, Sundays at 1.
The other days are hit or miss. You have to just usually It used to be in the afternoon. We had more time to do it in the afternoon. But now that winter has set in, we're shifting that to the evening so that we can get any outside work done during the daylight. Right. It gets dark at like 5:30 or something like that around here. So I'm really sorry that I can't give you a time. It'll probably be sometime between 6 and 9.
Yeah.
That will start. And then it'll go like it did tonight. I'm trying to find a song because they had asked for a song. But, you know, like you said the other day, we don't know a lot of hymns. This is a pretty big hymnal. We should, like, know Beulah Land. Some of these. He lives.
Why don't we do Psalm 23? We've done that a couple times, but it's worth doing again.
Okay. All right, so thank you guys, our moderators who were here. Gary Worth, Look, Mayo is here. Heather showed up. She hasn't been here in a little while. Love it when you're here. You guys need to go subscribe to their channel, Goin, Goin, Batty, Batty. They have excellent recipes. Kevin does a Bible study. I think he still does that on Sundays. They go live every Wednesday, I think at 7:30. They just have all kinds of crafts and you name it. We're going to do that after. Yes.
Okay, so we're going to sing a song and then we're going to close out and then we're going to come
We
back.
got something in the mail today. We actually got 2 things in the mail today, and we're going to come back and do a little segment on that.
We're going to give you a sneak peek. We're going to do a Young Living oil promotion because we got a special package in the mail today.
Yes,
so we're going to see it. Give us 2 seconds to set that up. All right, so this is our rendition of Psalm 23. I usually play it with the guitar, but it's upstairs, so we'll just sing it a cappella. And I'll start it out.
Okay.
The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie in green pastures. He leadeth me beside still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in paths of righteousness for his name's sake. We're going to bring that down to the King James Version.
Yeah.
Though I walk through the valley of the shadow, I will fear no evil. For thou art with me, thy rod and thy staff, they shall comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup it runneth over. Surely goodness, surely mercy, they shall follow me all the days of my life. And I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Yahweh, 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 I'll follow your way. Yahweh, Yahweh, the valley of the shadow. Yahweh, Yahweh, I'll follow your way. For thou art with me, thy rod and thy staff, they shall comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, Yahweh, Yahweh, runneth over. Yahweh, 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 all the days of my way. And I will dwell in the house of the Yahweh, 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 I'll follow your way. Yahweh, 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 I'll follow your way. Yahweh, 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 I'll follow your way.
Yay!
You need like 3 or 4 people, and it's like a big round.
Yeah, it is a big round, but there's only 2 of us here today. We usually Shanghai Mom or Kansas or somebody into helping out with the rest of that.
That's a good one. All right, so
and it segues into "Thou anointest my head with oil," with what we're going to come back. So, if anybody is interested, stick around.
We're going to talk a little bit about the history of essential oils and oils in the Bible. So, like, comment, subscribe to Mass Faith 3 and Resistance Chicks. Ring the bell for notifications. Find us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter.
On Twitter? No,
don't quit. Don't be a quitter.
No quitting.
Twitter. We have a P.O. Box if you want to send us more essential oils. 107. P.O. Box 107. Milford, Ohio.
That is not why we have the P.O. Box.
But it's cool. We'll take it. 45150 Milford, Ohio. Remember, it's not just a conspiracy theory. If it's the truth,
we love you. God loves you. God bless. And remember, bring it back to the basics of baseball.
Yes. There you go. And don't go streaking through somebody's house, streaking through your own house naked.
Just don't ever be naked. Shower with a swimsuit on.
I was cold all alone. No place for home. Every day, so afraid. But you called my name, turned my eyes to the lies.